I walked into the house like I always did, quietly, with the smell of sawdust still clinging to my flannel shirt. My boots were damp from the slush in the driveway, and I was already thinking about the custom oak bar I needed to finish by Friday. Claire was waiting for me in the kitchen, arms folded, her expression unreadable. "We need to talk," she said, voice flat. I blinked. "Okay. What's going on?" She didn't hesitate. "I want a separation." That stopped me cold. "What?" "I'm tired, Victor. I'm tired of doing everything while you chase your little dreams." "My name is Victor Harlan. I'm 39 years old. I live just outside Asheville, North Carolina. I own a private workshop that builds custom furniture for high-end clients. A few years ago, I made a choice to keep it quiet, no storefront, no social media. Just word-of-mouth referrals and direct commissions. I brought in over $500,000 last year alone. Claire didn't know that. I never told her. Not because I was hiding anything. Because she never asked. Claire kept talking. "I supported you through all of it. Your workshop, your clients, your tinkering. I've been patient, but it's exhausting. You don't contribute. Not really. It's like living with a roommate who doesn't pay rent." I stood there, hands still in my jacket pockets. My heart didn't race. I didn't stammer or argue. She wanted a reaction. I gave her none. "In this house," she said, gesturing around like she was giving a lecture, "my family built it. My grandfather poured that foundation. My name is on the deed. I think it's best if you move out. You'll land on your feet eventually." That last part came out with a little smirk. This wasn't about the marriage. Not really. This was about control. Claire liked winning. And to her, I was the guy who never quite made it. The failed artist who needed rescuing. She never saw the invoices from the Hamptons or the wire transfers from Napa Valley estate managers asking for custom cellar racks. She never noticed the Bentley that pulled into my shop 2 months ago or the celebrity chef who ordered 3 tables in walnut and birch. She just saw the flannel, the calluses, the sawdust. "All right," I said calmly. That made her blink. "What?" "I'll go." She didn't expect that. "I'll give you some time," she added quickly, like she wanted to soften it. "A few days to find a place, pack up, whatever. No rush." "Okay," I said. That was it. No fight. No begging. I grabbed a glass of water, drank half, then went upstairs to grab a few things. In my head, I was already drafting a plan. She didn't know what she was doing. She thought she was cutting loose a burden. She had no idea what she had just thrown away, and I wasn't going to tell her. Let her believe I was a broke dreamer. Let her think she'd won something. I was done explaining myself to people who didn't care to look deeper. She wanted space. She was going to get it. More than she ever imagined. And by the time she realized the truth, by the time she saw what I actually was, she'd already given it all away. A couple weeks later, I was still living out of a rented apartment above an old hardware store in Black Mountain. It was small, with creaky floors and one good window that overlooked the main street. I didn't mind. It was quiet, and the light was perfect for sketching new designs. Claire hadn't called or texted once, but she didn't need to. Her messages came in other forms. Like the time I stopped by the house to grab the rest of my tools from the garage, and the radio in the kitchen was playing that smooth jazz station Damien always liked. Or when I noticed an empty bottle of his favorite whiskey in the recycling bin by the curb. It didn't hit me all at once. At first, I thought maybe Damien was just visiting, checking in on Claire, maybe helping with the yard. He was my best friend. Had been since college. But then Claire started dropping his name a little too often. "Oh, Damien said I should repaint the bedroom," she mentioned casually as I was folding up an old tarp. "Damien thinks I should add a pergola to the back patio. He has such a great eye." It was always "Damien thinks," Damien says. Like she wanted me to notice. I didn't say anything. Not then. I just nodded and loaded my truck. But inside, I was doing the math. The way she always laughed a little too hard at his jokes. The night she didn't come home until after midnight and claimed she'd gone to a book club. The way Damien hadn't returned my calls in over a month, not even after I left that voicemail about the router bit he borrowed. Claire never had to say the words. They were written all over her smug little smile. I started watching more closely. At dinner with mutual friends one night, she showed up glowing in a way I hadn't seen in years. She talked loudly, laughed too often, and when Damien's name came up, her cheeks flushed just slightly. "Damien says you should really sell your shop," she announced, swirling her wine. "He thinks it's keeping you stuck." I just sipped my beer. "And he's probably right," she added with a shrug, like it was a casual observation. "You're a creator, not a businessman. You'd be happier working for someone else. Less pressure. The table went quiet. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "You're probably right." Then I excused myself and left before dessert. Back at the loft, I poured a glass of scotch and stood by the window, watching headlights pass below. I wasn't angry. Not really. I was awake. Everything was becoming clear. Claire had never respected me. She tolerated me when I played the struggling artisan. She pitied me. Damien, well, he didn't just betray me. He wanted my life. But I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. Let them think they had pulled one over on me. I had something they'd never understand. Leverage. And patience. He showed up unannounced. I heard the knock at the shop door around noon. I was shaping the leg of a cherrywood side table, sanding out the last of the imperfections. I looked through the front window, and there he was, Damien, still wearing that smug, relaxed look he perfected back in college. Aviators on his head, fitted coat, 2 white sneakers. He grinned like he'd just stumbled across a long-lost friend instead of the man he'd quietly betrayed. "Vic," he said, stepping inside like it was nothing. "God, it smells like 20 years of woodwork in here." I didn't say anything right away. I wiped my hands on a rag and waited. He looked around like he was seeing it all for the first time. The cabinets. The built-ins in progress. The design sketches tacked on the back wall. "This place is wow," he said. "You still doing all this by hand?" I nodded once. "Impressive, man. Seriously. I mean, Claire told me you were still keeping it old school, but damn. There it was. Her name. Said casually, like it was no big deal. I motioned toward the bench across from my work table. "He's Saturday, so," he said, resting his elbows on his knees. "Claire told me about the split." "Sorry, man. That's rough." I stared at him. He scratched the back of his neck. "I just wanted to check in. Make sure you're okay. You doing all right?" "I'm fine." He nodded quickly, like he expected that answer. Good. Good. A beat of silence passed. He was waiting for me to bring it up. I didn't. Instead, I walked back to the table leg and started sanding again. He said, shifting in his seat, "Claire's really been through a lot lately. It's not easy starting over. She said you've been distant." Another pause. I kept sanding. I told her she needs to focus on herself for once. Find someone who really sees her. That was the moment he looked up, like he was checking to see if it landed. I didn't flinch. Didn't even blink. Damien leaned back, frustrated that I wasn't giving him what he came for. He thought I'd lash out, or accuse him, or break down. Something to make him feel justified. But I just kept working. After a minute, he stood. "Well, I just wanted to stop by. Be a friend." "Appreciate it," I said. He hesitated near the door. "If you ever need anything, I mean it." I looked up then. "I know." He waited, like he expected more. But that was all he got. As the door closed behind him, I let out a slow breath. He thought he'd walked away with something. Claire. The house. The win. What he didn't know was that I had already started drawing up new plans. Bigger ones. Let them keep each other. I had no use for crumbs. I was building the whole damn table. Claire wore a white blouse and a smile, like this was some casual business meeting, and not the official end of our marriage. We sat at opposite ends of the polished oak table in a mediator's office, legal pads and printed asset breakdowns in front of us. She'd come prepared, I give her that. Hair tied back, makeup perfect, voice light and sweet like she was already in her next chapter. "I just want what's fair," she said, folding her hands. "This isn't about being cruel, Victor. We've both moved on, and I think this is the cleanest way to handle it." She glanced over at her lawyer, a young guy with too much gel in his hair and the permanent expression of someone who thought he was winning. Claire's demands were clear. Full rights to the house, her family home, as the document said. All furniture inside, including the pieces I made with my own hands. A 60/40th split of our visible savings account, with her taking the larger share. She didn't even blink when she listed it. Like she was taking out the trash. She thought she was walking away with everything. The house. The keepsakes. The narrative. But she didn't know what I knew. She didn't know that all our savings were just a buffer account. Money I'd let sit there so she'd have something to fixate on. She didn't know that my real income came from a series of LLCs tied to commissions and private sales. Or that I'd moved the bulk of my profits into business reinvestments and diversified holdings before she ever said the word separation. She thought I had maybe 50 grand in my name. The truth? I was sitting on over 7 figures in property, liquid assets, and pending contracts. And I didn't say a word. I signed the papers. Calm. Steady. Not a single twitch in my expression. Claire's smile faltered just a little. Are you sure? She asked, leaning forward like she couldn't believe it. You're okay with this split? I looked at her. Absolutely. She blinked. She wasn't used to me being agreeable. Not like this. Her lawyer cleared his throat and shuffled the pages. Well, then I think we're all set. Claire stood first, straightening her blouse. Thank you, Victor. I hope we can both move on in peace. I nodded. Of course. She walked out looking like the queen of a kingdom she'd just conquered. I watched her go. She thought she'd taken it all. She didn't know she'd just signed away a fortune. Everything she claimed. The house, the furniture, the scraps of a life she thought I built from scraps, was bait. And she swallowed it whole. Let her enjoy the victory. The real win wasn't in the papers. It was in the silence. Because the quieter I stayed, the more she believed she was winning. And I was just getting started. I moved into the loft that same week. Top floor of a converted warehouse in downtown Asheville. Exposed brick, steel beams, massive windows facing the mountains. Claire would have called it cold or industrial. But to me, it felt like a blank canvas. I filled it with what I knew: wood, light, and work. My workshop took over half the space. I brought in my favorite tools. The ones Claire used to complain were cluttering the garage. A new drafting table sat near the window. The rest was open, room for thought, room to build. The commissions kept rolling in. In fact, they accelerated. Word had gotten out about the hand-carved desk I'd made for a Grammy-winning producer in L.A., and suddenly I was getting emails from high-end architects and interior designers all over the country. No marketing, no website, just quiet referrals from people who knew what quality felt like. I doubled my rates. No one blinked. In the first 4 months, I brought in over $180,000. By the end of the year, I cleared $530,000 in custom orders. Still, I didn't post anything. I didn't call anyone. I didn't rub anything in. Especially not Claire. I let her believe whatever she wanted to believe. That I was scraping by. That I was lost without her. That she had taken the house and left me with nothing. Let her keep the illusion. I had other priorities now. I poured my energy into the work. Each new piece felt sharper, more confident. I wasn't designing for comfort anymore. I was building statements. Long dining tables for luxury cabins in Montana. Floating staircase banisters for a private ski lodge in Colorado. A reclaimed walnut and brass liquor cabinet for a Hollywood agent. People talked. Quietly. In the right rooms. That's how the best clients find you. Meanwhile, Claire's world didn't seem so polished anymore. I didn't go looking, but Asheville's small. People talk. Friends started making little comments. Hey, did you hear Claire and Damien are fighting a lot lately? Word is they're overextended, maxed cards, late rent, lots of tension. Turns out, Damien didn't exactly know how to manage a household or a career. His part-time hosting gig on that local lifestyle show had been axed. Sponsors pulled out. They downgraded to a rental. Then another one. I didn't say a word. Not to them. Not to anyone. I just kept building. My world became quieter, sharper. The smell of fresh pine, the sound of sandpaper against raw maple, the hum of late-night music playing from the Bluetooth speaker while I sketched out my next piece. It wasn't revenge. It was restoration. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was explaining myself to anyone. I wasn't proving my worth. I was simply living in it. Every dollar, every inch of progress, every deal closed was mine. No noise. No approval needed. Let Claire and Damien chase whatever version of winning they believed in. I had already found mine. The invite came in a group text. Claire, trying to sound breezy and magnanimous. Hey all. We're having a little open house this Saturday. Come by for drinks and good vibes. Wine glass sparkles. Bring a friend. I read it twice, then muted the thread. The apartment they were renting was in a newer complex on the edge of town. Trendy but hollow, designed for people who cared more about appearances than functionality. Damien loved that kind of thing. I didn't go, of course, but I knew people who did, and the stories trickled in. Claire had dressed the place up with string lights, mood candles, faux marble coasters, and a Bluetooth jazz playlist that screamed Pinterest board chic. She floated around in a silk robe-looking wrap, pouring cheap wine like it was vintage Bordeaux. Damien was doing his usual Damien routine, clinking glasses, laughing too loud, talking about his upcoming media ventures. But right around 8:15, the lights flickered, and then went out. Entire apartment, dark. Someone made a joke. Someone else said, no way. Claire fumbled around lighting candles, blaming a blown fuse. But the neighbors still had power. The truth came out in whispers. Unpaid utility bill. People started leaving after that. Nobody wanted to sit in the dark, even with Damien making desperate jokes like, guess we're doing a romantic blackout party, huh? It was messy, and I wasn't there to witness it. But I didn't have to be. The fallout showed up in Claire's messages. First, it was casual. Claire, hey, just checking in. Hope everything's going well. Then again, a few days later. Claire, saw your name in the local article about that designer award. That's amazing, Vic, congrats. Then silence for a week. Then this. Claire, I've been thinking a lot about things. Would be nice to catch up. Just talk. She hadn't called me Vic in years. Each message had that familiar tone, like she was trying to sound above it, but the cracks were forming. I didn't respond. Instead, I worked late that night finishing a hand-shaped mahogany chair for a museum collector in Charleston. That piece was going to be featured in a regional arts catalog next month. That same night, I heard from a mutual friend that Claire had tried to get out of a furniture lease early. Couldn't afford the payments. Damien's new gig, something about a podcast network, had folded before it launched. Sponsors pulled out again. They were bleeding slowly. But instead of dealing with it, they kept playing house. Claire's Instagram was still full of flat lay photos, fancy lattes, candles, throw pillows with hashtags like #grateful and #homegoals. It was all illusion. A house of cards built on image, not foundation. And I was fine. I spent my nights designing, building, and breathing easy. No games. No power struggles. No need to prove anything to anyone. Claire wanted power once. She got it. Now she was choking on the weight of it. And I hadn't lifted a single finger. I spotted him before he saw me. Damien, slouched at a window seat in the corner of a cafe near downtown, one hand clumsily tapping through job listings on his phone, the other wrapped around a half-empty coffee cup. He looked smaller. Not physically, he still wore his fitted blazer and that designer scarf like armor, but something about him had shrunk. His hair wasn't as styled, his eyes didn't sparkle with the same smugness. He looked tired. I grabbed my coffee to go. As I passed him, he glanced up. Recognition flared in his eyes, then panic, then something that almost looked like hope. Vic, he said, standing halfway out of his seat. Hey, man. I paused. Damien. There was an awkward beat where neither of us moved. He gestured vaguely toward the empty seat across from him. You want to sit? Catch up a little? I shook my head. I'm good. Just grabbing a cup. He nodded too quickly, too eagerly. Right. Of course. Busy man now. He laughed like it was an inside joke, but I didn't smile. He looked down at his phone again, then back at me. You doing okay? Better than ever, I said. Another beat. He nodded again, slower this time. Yeah, that's good. You deserve that. I walked out without another word. I wasn't angry. I didn't even feel anything close to it anymore. That was the first unraveling. The second came the next day. Claire showed up at my office. She must have gotten the address from a mutual friend. The new building had a private showroom up front, custom woodwork displayed like museum pieces. Clients came in by appointment only. Claire didn't have one. I was reviewing material orders when the receptionist buzzed in. There's a woman asking to speak with you. Says it's urgent. I knew who it was before she said her name. I stepped out into the foyer. Claire was there, arms folded tight, wearing a coat too light for the weather and a look that tried to be composed but didn't quite make it. Victor, she breathed, like it was a confession. Can we talk? I nodded and led her to the side office. Bare, with nothing personal inside. She sat down slowly. I know I'm probably the last person you want to see, but I didn't know who else to turn to. I waited. We're struggling, she said. Financially. Damien's not doing well. And God, I'm not here to guilt you. What do you want, Claire? I asked, voice even. She swallowed hard. Just a loan. A little help. Just to get back on our feet. She hesitated, voice cracking. Maybe a second chance. I made a mistake. I see that now. Before I could respond, the door opened again. Damien. Of course. He looked like he hadn't slept. His eyes darted between us. Claire, what are you doing? She stood quickly, flustered. I was just trying to fix it. You came to him? Damien snapped. Seriously? I stood. Calm. This isn't the place for this, I said. Damien scoffed. You think you're better than us now? No, I said quietly. I've always been better. You just didn't see it. Claire stepped toward me, desperation creeping in. Victor, please. I looked her in the eyes. You left for someone better. Remember? Her face crumbled. Damien was frozen behind her, silent for once. I walked to the door and opened it. Good luck, I said. And just like that, they were out. No yelling, no drama. Just two people, finally seeing the truth, and walking away with nothing but their shame. I heard about it before I saw it. The cafe where it happened wasn't far from my shop. A cozy little place that served overpriced cold brew and attracted freelancers with laptops, and people like Damien who still thought they were local celebrities. A friend of mine, an interior designer I'd worked with a few times, texted me. Just saw Claire lose it at Grindhouse. You might want to ask around. It was brutal. So I did. By that afternoon, I had the full story from 3 different sources. Claire and Damien were sitting by the window. He looked distracted, constantly checking his phone, half listening as Claire talked. She seemed tense, according to one witness. Edgy in that way where you could tell something had been simmering beneath the surface for a while. Then another woman walked in. Young, blonde, maybe late 20s. She waved at Damien like she knew him. Damien froze. Claire turned around. The woman smiled and said, You left your charger at my place. Boom. Claire blinked. Said nothing at first. Then stood. Quietly. The woman, oblivious or maybe just bold, handed Damien a small black charger and walked out without looking back. That's when it happened. Claire picked up Damien's cold brew and threw it straight into his face. The whole cafe gasped. A couple people applauded. Damien sat there, dripping, blinking like he couldn't believe it. Claire stormed out, slamming the glass door behind her so hard it rattled the frames. It was messy, public, exactly how Damien had always lived his life, on display. Only this time, it wasn't a performance. It was the crash. A few days later, word got around that he'd moved in with a new woman, some tech PR assistant he met at a networking mixer. Young, impressionable. It lasted exactly 3 weeks. He was seen dragging his bags out of her place in the rain. No car, no umbrella, just him and his designer duffel looking like a soaked dog. Apparently, she'd found out he lied about being a media consultant. No job, no money, no future. Claire, meanwhile, started calling me again. First, it was short texts. Claire, I know I messed up. Can we talk? Claire, I'm not asking for money. I just need a real conversation. Then voicemails. Victor, I can't sleep. I keep thinking about how I threw everything away. I was stupid. You were always steady. I see that now. I see you now. The last message she left was barely a whisper. I was wrong. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I had to say it. I listened to every word, then deleted them. No reply. No closure. Just silence. Claire and Damien had built their life on shallow wins. Image. Convenience. Applause from people who didn't care. And now? He was couch surfing. She was drowning in debt. Credit cards maxed. Car repossessed. Job hanging by a thread. And I was sitting in a meeting with a hospitality firm designing custom installations for 5 luxury hotels. I didn't celebrate. I didn't toast to karma. I just went home, turned on the jazz playlist I liked, and ran my hand over the grain of the mahogany slab I'd be shaping in the morning. Let the world unfold. I had nothing left to prove. It was a Tuesday when the magazine came out. American Design Quarterly, glossy and heavy, with my name printed across the feature spread. The artisan who said no to the spotlight and built an empire anyway. They photographed me in the loft, tools hanging behind me, a raw slab of black walnut across the workbench. The article talked about my process, my clients, my refusal to outsource. They called it modern monk craftsmanship. I didn't correct them. That same week, I got an invitation to speak at a National Entrepreneur Summit in Chicago. First panel of the weekend, quiet brands, loud results. I laughed when I saw it. Fitting. My assistant handled the travel. My team managed the overflow orders. I just kept working. At night, the city buzzed outside my windows, but inside, all I heard was the rhythm of sanding blocks and jazz humming low from the speakers. Peace like that doesn't announce itself. It just shows up one day and sits quietly with you, like it always belonged. I had no interest in watching Claire or Damien anymore. I didn't need updates, but they still came casual mentions, passing remarks. Damien had started posting old photos of himself, trying to stay relevant. Claire had changed her social media to private. Someone said she was working part-time at a staging company. Someone else said she still wore her wedding ring in public. None of it mattered. And yet, some things find their way back to you no matter how far you've walked. It was a Friday afternoon. I stopped by the local grocery store to pick up oranges and fresh rosemary. As I turned into the baking aisle, I saw her. Claire. She stood at the end of the aisle, studying a bag of store-brand flour. Her hair was tied back. No makeup. Her cart had canned beans, off-brand cereal, and a pack of discounted chicken thighs. She looked up and saw me. For a moment, she froze, then offered a small smile. "Victor," she said quietly. I nodded. "Claire." She waited like she might say more, but I didn't give her the chance. I walked past her cart without stopping, grabbed what I needed, and headed for checkout. No words. No apology. No anger. Just the soft thud of our past fading behind me. I stepped into the sun with my bag in hand. The city felt bright, like I hadn't noticed before. Back at the loft, the shop was quiet. A new slab waited on the bench, full of promise. There was nothing left to rebuild, because I hadn't been broken, only reshaped. And now? The future was mine, every inch of it.